Welcome once again to HUDE Hour right here on HUDE Network. The mandate remains the same on this program. We break down issues within the humanitarian and development space. We try to shine a light on those issues that are often underreported, and we try to bring in sustainable development by proffering solutions, by expanding on advocacy. As always, I am Amadine Ubewe.
And I am Jill Neze. Thank you so much for joining us. You're welcome. Hi, Amadine. How are you doing today?
I'm good. And you?
I'm great.
You look happy, glowing. This Wednesday morning is going well for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really going well for me. And on the flip side, you really look very amazing.
Thank you.
I like the tie, well detailed, from a fashion designer
Thank
angle.
Thank you. We all have different aspects to ourselves that our viewers might not completely know about.
Of course.
But today, we're doing what we do best, which is, break down issues within this space and try and draw attention to it, meaningful attention, and promote sustainable development. Yeah. Which takes us to our topic of the day, Ebola. Ebola is a disease and is still a serious health threat, but progress has been made in how we respond to it. While it's a rare disease, outbreaks still happen, especially in parts of Africa, and it can be deadly if not treated early.
The virus spreads through various direct contacts with the body fluids of an infected person or contaminated items like clothes and beddings. But now, some types of Ebola can be prevented with vaccines, and there are new treatments that help people recover faster.
Health workers are better prepared today with rapid response teams and improved public awareness. So while Ebola remains a challenge, the world is now in a stronger position to fight it. We'll delve into more of these issues, but first, let's take a look at our headlines for the day. Have that EU commits £1.2 million in emergency aid to Uganda. Next, we have WHO and partners launch vaccine trials and boost support. And finally, new antiviral pill shows 100% success against Ebola in monkeys. I'll delve into these issues and see what's happening, the progress being made so far, and how far left we have to go after this break. Don't go anywhere. Now back to the matter. Ebola is still one of the world's deadliest diseases, with an average case fatality rate of around 50%. In past outbreaks, this has ranged from as low as 25% to as high as 90%, depending on the speed and the strength of the response.
Vaccines have been used during outbreaks to help control the spread, and more are currently in development. WHO has also recommended 2 specific monoclonal antibody treatments, which have shown to significantly improve survival when given early.
Going forward, survival also improves with early supportive care like rehydration and symptom management. And also, effective outbreak control depends on multiple actions, such as patient care, infection prevention, surveillance, contact tracing, safe and dignified burials, and social mobilization. Above all, strong community engagement remains essential to successfully stopping the spread of Ebola. We'll delve into these developments and more after the break. Don't go anywhere. So our first news item of the day. The European Union has announced an emergency humanitarian package of 1.2 million euros to assist Uganda in tackling the ongoing Sudan Ebola virus outbreak. The funding will support the World Health Organization in strengthening coordination, surveillance, infection prevention and control, case management, and logistics. Since the outbreak was declared on January 30, 2025, Uganda has recorded 14 cases, 12 confirmed and 2 probable, with 4 deaths reported. The capital, Kampala, is among 7 districts assessed to be at a very high risk, while 11 others face high risk. The latest allocation adds to 200,000 euros provided in February 2025 to the Uganda Red Cross Society. The EU has also activated its civil protection mechanism, deploying experts from member states to aid in response operations on the ground. Well, as we say every time, put your money where your mouth is. And I see that we see that with these bodies where there is not so much, or there is a readiness to bring the funds required to make the situation better for people. And, the things we've mentioned already, the aspects that have to do with control, contact tracing, even something as maybe simple to some people might be complex as proper dignified burials is also something that we're seeing is considered by these bodies, WHO and others, the European Union, as regards curbing this disease and ensuring that the spread is cut off. And again, I think, like we said before on the program here, when we see involvement of other maybe developed nations or perhaps just other nations, because even in some cases, Nigeria helps other nations as well, even though it's also a developing nation, is that health for all involves, ensuring that everyone is well enough. Because if you don't assist in your neighbor getting well or getting prevented from an illness, when they come next to you, it's going to get to you eventually. So we're all caring for each other, and that's why we see this funding. And we just want to see a little bit more transparency in all of this is spent, and we hope that it gets the desired results.
I totally agree with you. And in the angle of, I'll start from the angle of looking out for each other, countries coming together to understand that, yes, in as much as this particular country is down with this particular disease, it's very, very important that we should show solidarity to help the other country. Because if you don't solve the problem in that country, it can actually move to yours, and it's more problem accumulated. And also, I'll come in the angle of people should understand that the Ebola virus is not gone. It's still there. So in as much as we can see that we are recording deaths, 4 deaths, and there's also a high risk in Kampala, Uganda, the capital city. It shows that we have to be on alert. We have to be on alert to make sure that we curb out this particular disease, and fast action needs to be taken.
Indeed.
We move to the next news item we have. The WHO, the World Health Organization, and its partners have intensified support for Uganda following the confirmation of a Sudan virus disease, SVD, outbreak, delivering 2,160 doses of a candidate vaccine and investigational treatment already pre-positioned in the country. Clinical trials for the vaccine and treatment, which include a monoclonal antibody and the antiviral remedies, are underway with research teams deployed to the field. The trials, coordinated globally by WHO, aim to assess the safety and efficacy of these tools using a ring vaccination approach targeting high-risk contacts of confirmed cases. Uganda last battled the virus between September 2022 and January 2023, recording 164 cases and 77 deaths. The trial efforts are led by Uganda's Ministry of Health in collaboration with the Makerere University Lung Institute, the Uganda Virus Research Institute, and the international expert. The initiative is supported by global institutions including CEPI, Africa CDC, Canada's IDRC, the European Commission's HERA, and the MAVAC and CORC research consortia. WHO has allocated $1 million from its contingency fund for emergencies to support the response. While there are no licensed vaccines or treatments for SVD, early supportive care remains crucial in reducing fatalities, which have ranged from 41% to 100% in past outbreaks. This is what we're talking about, Amadine. That what really, really got my attention is the different institutions that have come together to tackle the issue. That's the Africa CDC, we have the Canada, and different particular institutions, international bodies, has seen that, okay, we need to come together to solve this particular disease. And Ebola is not something that needs to be subdued or needs to be swept under the carpet. It's something that needs to be tackled immediately. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, for me, I think it relates to our next news item, which is the what is spent on research and all of that. Because at the end of the day, you find that when we are able to fund these missions at the end of the day, they save a lot more in the long run, because any health official will tell you prevention is better than cure. Yeah. So when we have things that are ready to tackle these things, either preventively or to treat them afterwards, as long as they exist, and they can't exist without intensive research. So we understand the monies that are being spent here. And, a lot of these processes are very interesting, but we need a doctor to really break that down, and that will be as the program continues, because I really want to know about the monoclonal antibody treatment and what exactly that is about. But anyway, we will go on a break right now, and when we return, we'll delve into our final news item, and afterwards we'll have a discussion with an expert on the matter. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Now to our final news item. A newly tested oral antiviral pill has shown remarkable effectiveness in treating Ebola in monkeys, offering hope for a breakthrough in managing one of the world's deadliest diseases. The antiviral pill is known as Obeldesivir. The pill, originally approved for COVID-19, achieved a 100% survival rate in rhesus macaques and 80% in cynomolgus macaques during recent trials published in Science Advances. Unlike current Ebola treatments that rely on monoclonal antibody infusions requiring hospital care, this drug and pill is shelf-stable and does not need refrigeration, making it suitable for rapid deployment in outbreak zones. The drug works as a polymerase inhibitor, blocking the Ebola virus from replicating inside the body. In addition to clearing the virus from the bloodstream, it boosted immune responses, including T-cell activation and antibody production, suggesting it could also serve as a preventive treatment for exposed individuals. While the pill has not yet been tested in humans for Ebola, scientists are calling for urgent clinical trials. If successful, it could become the first pill-based treatment for Ebola, potentially transforming outbreak response worldwide. Well, again, I'm such a fan, or should I say propagator, advocator for science and what science can do. And here, we're not jumping the gun. We know how these processes work. This is a phase where it's successful in monkeys, or macaques, as they are usually called, macaques, that's the proper word. But there still needs to be clinical trial for humans so we can be finally sure that the drug works as it should work, and that's part of what we are waiting for next. But what's interesting to me is that it said that this drug was initially intended for COVID-19. So again, science can be really interesting, how it's being repurposed for something else. But let's see if it works out, and if it does, I think it's going to, it says there, it's going to perhaps transform the outbreak response worldwide, because when we have a standard treatment, a pill that works, stops the replication of the virus, we're almost there, we're there already. So it's promising news, and let's see how it pans out the way we expect it to.
Yeah, I look forward to it too. Research has been a very wonderful thing that has really been going on in the life of the human race. And without research, a lot of things really, really go wrong. And from research, solutions are being gotten due to some prolonged cases that has really been in existence. And I look forward to it, being declared as a pill that will be used to, solve the Ebola disease. So that's my own take for that.
All right, that's how we end our news item segment. We'll go on a break. When we return, we will be joined by a guest. He is joining us remotely and talking about Dr. Hassan Simon. He's a medical doctor and also a public health expert. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On HUDE Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on HUDE Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on HUDE Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change.
Hey everyone, let's face it, our world today experiences numerous challenges. And guess what? Our community isn't off the hook either. Most of the world issues are either not talked about enough or never talked about at all. But here on Timeline, we've got you covered. We dive deep into issues that affect us every day, leaving behind footprints of wisdom, knowledge, and solutions. Think of it like a roadmap that keeps you on the track for success. So buckle up, because in this new season of Timeline, we're taking another trip through the past, the present, and navigate into a more promising future. Again, we're talking solutions, people, and let's make one thing clear. This is not your average blah 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 convo. This is real talk with a side of inspiration and a sprinkle of wow. I never thought about it like that. I'm your host on this impactful ride. Together, we'll tackle the tough stuff, laugh a little, and find ourselves on the path to positive change. So what are you waiting for? Season 2 of Timeline will be loaded. Let's get started. Hop in and let's drive straight into the heart of issues shaping our world. Let's go. Oh, one more thing. Hit that subscribe button and let's take this ride together.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still HUDE Hour right here on HUDE Network. Right now it's time to talk to an expert on the matter, a medical doctor, a physician, and he's also an expert in public health, talking about Dr. Hassan Simon. Dr. Hassan, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us remotely, for taking the time out of your day. So, Dr. Hassan,
Oh,
we
thank you
like
for having me.
to, all right. So we like to, carry everyone along. So very quickly, can you give us a very brief overview in the first place of what we are talking about when we're talking about Ebola, in terms of how it appears, symptoms, and all of that, what the disease is?
All right. When we are talking about Ebola is actually a virus. It's a virus that belongs to viral hemorrhagic fever family, and it's normally affect the body. And then when it gets into the body, the first thing it does, it weakens the immune system. And when it weakens the immune system, it also affects some other blood vessels. So, and then it comes like fever, fatigue, rashes, muscle pain, and also sore throat. Then when you look at it, these are actually the early symptoms of that Ebola virus. So later on, it progresses eventually and it leads to vomiting, diarrhea, and it can also cause bleeding. And most of it, it can either be internal or external bleeding, and it affects then manifestation of that external bleeding is through the craniofacial orifices, and eventually it causes multiple organ dysfunction or multiple organ failure. which will lead to death. So this Ebola is actually a virus that belongs to the family of viral hemorrhagic fever. And there was a research that was conducted. If nothing is being done on this Ebola earlier, it can lead to 20 to 25% to 90% and mortality, depending on the outbreak and also how it's been intervened on time.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Simon. I just want to ask a very quick one. How has our
Right?
understanding of Ebola virus transmission evolved since the major outbreak at West Africa back then, like back in the
All
years
right.
since 2014?
Okay, I guess the first time Ebola has been in existence earlier before then, but the first time we had it, which it becomes a pandemic, that's Nigeria, and 2024 to 2026, just as you said, and to 2016 and 2014 to 2016, just as you said. And actually, initially, when the outbreak was declared a pandemic, and mostly because of the symptoms it presents with, like and all those flu-like symptoms like sore throat, and it comes with sometimes running nose and all those things. So mostly we concentrate on airborne droplets, which we normally concentrate on respiratory tract. So most of the physicians we are mostly concerned about it being a air droplet infection. But after the outbreak of that infection, there was a research that was carried, and we discovered that it's not an airborne air droplet and trans organisms, but rather it can be transmitted through with an infected individual, either through blood or blood product. It can also come in form of contact with blood fluids, all those saliva, sweat, and women who work in labor wards, like amniotic fluids during the breakage of amniotic fluids. And if the woman is being infected with virus, they are also at risk. It can be treated through that. And also all body secretion like semen, pericardial fluids, all those fluids that are in the body, and when it come in contact with. And also there was a discovery that there are reservoirs in animals like birds and primates. So all those things are also reservoirs to which Ebola virus can be transmitted. So after those research, those were the discovery that was made. But initially it was concentrated on air droplets and mostly respiratory tract infection. But the research has actually in the eye, it's an eye opener in healthcare system, and then the field of medicine ventured into research, and they were able to come up with such and ways through which it can be transmitted, like contact with an infected individual through blood and blood product, and also body secretion, including vomitus and diarrhea too, like peeing and pooing. All those things can actually be an infected. Then, and the animals that I've called earlier, they can also be a reservoir for transmission of those diseases.
Thank you.
All right. The next question now naturally would be, what are the advancements in terms of treatment, vaccination when it comes to Ebola? Specifically, when we talk about vaccines, if you could help us either debunk or confirm, when vaccines are being mentioned in relation to Ebola, some persons tend to think it's a vaccine that works for all strains, all variants, or all types of Ebola. If you can clarify if that is true or not, and what are the other developments and advancements in treatment and prevention?
Okay. And when we talk about vaccine, actually vaccine is a mode of prevention to prevent someone from getting an Ebola virus when he or she come in contact with such virus. It's not actually a curative or not a treatment for Ebola virus, but actually is a mode of prevention. And I think answering your question, with the research that was carried on, and that Ebola has so many strands. It has so many strands, and the commonest one that the outbreak that we had recently, I think, is the Sudan strand that we have. But we have the ones like Zared, we have some others that can affect human beings. So, and that vaccine is not actually preventive against all form of Ebola virus strand. That is why I guess there is a need to improve, like getting a broad spectrum vaccine that can cover all the Ebola viruses. I think that's a research that is still going on to see that we come up with a vaccine that can cover all the strands of Ebola virus, so that if one is being given a shot of that Ebola virus vaccine, it can cover all the strands. But right now, the vaccine that we're having, it covers only one strand of Ebola. And we also have other treatments like drugs that are used, like the monoclonal antibody therapy. The monoclonal antibody therapy is just like the word monoclonal. Mono means one, clonal like they clone it, and it's an antibody. It works like an antibody in our body, which strengthens the immune system in order to respond against an Ebola virus infection. So those therapy were being coming up, so that it was being created so that when being taken, it can actually it can actually fight against that infection, that Ebola virus, when it comes in contact with the person, and it works like the antibody in our body. So it gives like a response to that virus, and it strengthens our immune system in order to fight that virus together with the one in our body. So it's just like a antibody, laboratory made antibody that is actually used to treat that Ebola virus, and other drugs that are being used to treat. But when we talk about vaccine, it actually prevents, not if, and more so with vaccine, we only have a vaccine strain for now. But there is research going on to see how we can come up with a broad spectrum vaccine to cover all the strands of the Ebola virus.
All right.
All
Thank you.
right, fair enough. Doug, let's talk about contact tracing in the rural African communities. What are those unique challenges that are being faced when we're trying to implement these particular policies? What are those challenges, unique challenges during the Ebola
When it
outbreak?
comes to that, actually there are a lot of challenges when it comes to contact tracing in a rural area. And people with their belief, cultural belief, and all those things, you cannot eliminate it from human being, and that has been a problem to us in health care. Most especially, there are some parts of the rural area that they don't even believe in the existence of the disease. So some of them will say that they don't even believe in the existence of the disease, that it's just a man-made phenomena that is meant to destabilize the society. That has actually been a challenge. So even when you come up with like a mode of prevention or another form of curative, or if the person is having the symptoms, they may not be able to figure it out because they mostly attribute it to like kind of traditional stuff. So that has been a challenge to us. And also, one of our biggest challenges as well are lack of health facilities and infrastructures has actually been a problem to us. And also, not even the infrastructures, the trained personalities and trained health personalities are also part of the problem that we're facing in the rural area, because most rural area has to do with primary health care. Primary health care. So there is a need for trained health personalities in such kind of rural area, people that can be able to identify the symptoms, and also to be. And then one of the challenges again, in the rural area, some of the road network system is a problem. How to maneuver to get into it has actually been a problem, and we also lack of cooperation, like I've mentioned earlier. So there is a need for an enlightenment through the traditional leaders and other things to collaborate to see how we are going to enlighten those people, to make them believe that Ebola virus is not a man-made issue, and enlighten them, educate them about the symptoms. Probably, if there is any index case and everyone index case the Ebola virus, that can serve as actually a mode of enlightenment to those people. But actually, some of our challenges is healthcare infrastructures that people could report those kind of cases has been a problem, and also trained personalities. But I believe that it's been worked upon to see how to overcome these challenges. And I think there is a huge breakthrough from the Ministry of Health. More so, if and I know, since you being a journalist, you are current on news. Of recent, was it last month or last 2 months? There was inauguration of national health fellows
Mm,
from the office of the Minister of Health, in collaboration with the President, President Bola Ahmed
yeah.
Tinubu, to see that how they are going to strengthen all those primary health care, how they will come up with good infrastructures, a lot of buildings, trained personalities that we've been trained and we've been selected from various and local government to see how they're going to send in those primary health care. And also, I guess there is also There's also this that is going on to see how the transportation network will be improved in order to overcome all those challenges.
All right, fair enough. Thanks so much for that information. So you already answered my next question, so I'll just move on. I was going to ask about what are the differences or the lessons learned as regards the response to Ebola from a healthcare perspective, and taking a look at the African nations. We have it popping up again in Uganda right now. So what would you say the healthcare system, particularly in African nations, need to learn now as regards preventing, control, treatment, and all-round response to Ebola?
Okay, I guess with what is happening in some African countries like Uganda, as you've mentioned, I think that we need to draw in our health. I guess we need strategies and all means in place to see that and to see how we respond to this Ebola virus. Should it be a problem to us in Nigeria, or maybe probably if we have a case? Because as it is right now, being it only in Uganda, I will just want to say is maybe an endemic or epidemic. It's not yet a pandemic, but actually it can progress to be a pandemic. So, and I guess there's a need for emergency response team. There's a need for emergency response team to be set against Ebola virus since it's almost coming close to us. And I guess isolation centers too should be created to see where we're going to be keeping such cases. Isolation and quarantine centers should all be created. I guess that should be what we should focusing on. And also, if possible, we should have more healthcare infrastructures. Like we should be ready with our personal protective equipment. That's the PPE. Yeah, so that we can be able to battle against this Ebola virus. Should it be in our, and if possible, the healthcare too, we need to build some health facilities, and if they should be a need for us to build health facility that such kind of care will actually be if in Nigeria. And also training needs to be started, like health personnel that we can be able to combat against an Ebola virus. Not that when we experience the case, that's when we should start. I guess there's a need to, like I said, just like we should get an emergency response team whereby they will be trained, well equipped, and ready for Ebola virus. And also the vaccines, the drugs that are used for preventing and also for the cure and or for the curative of the Ebola virus should also be put in place. Let us be proactive, not to be reactive. Not that when it comes, that's when we start reacting to it. No, I guess there's a need for us in the health care system to be against an Ebola virus, and also fundings need to be put in place to see how to fund the case of Ebola virus should it be a problem and endemic, so that we'll protect our people from such and from the deadly uh, uh, part of Ebola virus.
All right, Doc, you just made mention of a key word. That's my next question and my final question. You talked about funding. This brings me to my next question. What are the current priorities in Ebola research that need urgent funding and attention? What do you think are those priorities?
Okay, I've actually said one earlier, and when your colleague asked me of the about the vaccine, either it can cover all the strand of Ebola virus or it's only one strand. And that, like I said, actually there is a need for us to look into this. A broad spectrum vaccine needs to actually be funded to see that and we've actually covered all the strand of Ebola virus, not only one. Because when we cover all, because if it comes with, if there's any outbreak, probably for us to make a research to know which of the strand that is a problem at the moment will be a problem. But if we have a broad spectrum vaccine that can be able to cover all, I think it will do us good if we look into it. So funding needs to be put in that area to see that we've actually quickened and hastened how to make available broad spectrum and broad spectrum vaccine. And also there's also a need for us to look into the treatment plan. And if you look at it, and earlier it was it 2023. I guess there was an outbreak of Ebola in same Uganda, and also now there's also an outbreak. So what could be the problem? I think research needs to be conducted towards that area to see what could be the problem that there are frequent outbreak of such virus in that area. So I guess even the treatment modality, it needs to be funded, like the monoclonal antibody that we're talking about, and also and also environmental study needed to see that, like I said, what could be the problem whereby there is a frequent outbreak in that environment, and what can we do to prevent it from spreading. So environmental studies need to be done. Funding need to be not need to, there's a need for funding in environmental study, and also there is a need for strengthening healthcare, both the infrastructure and also personnel in that area, so that to see how we are going to like kind of fight against or combat against this Ebola virus. I guess these are the area that I think there should be a quick response or funding we look into in order to see, even though the current vaccine that we're having is promising, actually, but that doesn't mean that we should just be reluctant, because it can develop a resistance. If you look at it, initially we normally treat malaria with chloroquine, but at a point those parasite now develop a mechanism against that chloroquine. So change for SCT and other things has come in place and all that. So there is a need for us to start working. Let us be proactive to work against us, to work towards that, so that to see how we're going to get those broad spectrum antibiotic, environmental research, treatment modality, strengthening of our healthcare facility, to see how we are going to eliminate this, to make it like a zero case in Africa and around the globe.
All right. Dr. Simon, thank you so much for enlightening us. We've run out of time now, but I just want to put in one question, if you can answer in under 30 seconds. We've talked about
All right.
healthcare system, governments, policies. What can you tell the average person out there? What steps can they take to prevent themselves from, getting Ebola or any other disease, really, but this one specifically?
Okay, we actually have a common slogan in the field of medicine that we normally say prevention is better than cure. So I guess there is a need for people to prevent themselves against any form of diseases. When a case of Coros there was an awareness against how to protect, like frequent hand washing, social distance, maintaining 2 meters social distance, avoidance of going to overcrowded place, and also there's a need for use of face masks, and other things like that. These are very good, and including the food that we eat. Those people that are form of eating bushmeat.
We're experiencing some technical difficulties there. Dr. Simon, can you still hear me? All right, Dr. Simon, can you take that last part again, please? You went off for a bit.
All right, I said for prevention, because I said during coronavirus there was an awareness about social distance, use of face masks, hand washing, and all those things. That has actually helped us to curtail the transmission of these diseases. So I guess when it comes to Ebola and any other diseases, all those measures should also be put in place, and also people who are form of eating bushmeat, because it's been proven that Ebola, one of the mode of transmission is animals. That's the fruit bat and other primates that can be taken. So bushmeat too should be avoided, and people who are eating meat, like from butchers and other things, should be cooked to a certain degree. In order to eliminate those toxins that may be responsible for transmission of those viruses. And also people who are fond of having multiple sexual partners, kissing, hugging, body sweat and other things should be avoided. And also going to overcrowded places should also be avoided, because these are the means to which, and good environmental sanitation needs to be done as well, to prevent us from having this Ebola virus and other form of communicable or transmittable diseases.
All right.
Thank
you so much, Dr. Hassan Simon. It's been a pleasure, and it's been a very enlightening episode. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Doctor.
Welcome. My pleasure.
All right. So, well, that's how we round off this segment. We have been speaking with Dr. Hassan, and he's really broken it down and giving us some tips and information and knowledge as regards the outbreaks and how we can tackle them, and also from the broader perspective, policies, research, and also to the simpler ones between you and I, social distancing, basically all the things we were told during the COVID-19, they still hold true today. Washing your hands will never go out of fashion. So thanks so much. We'll go on a break now. When we return, we'll be delving into verified voices. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Every day, amazing stories of hope and tenacity unfold across the globe. On HUDE Hour, we dive into these inspiring tales and discuss the vital work being done in the humanitarian and development space. Humanity has never faced a shortage of challenges, yet we rise stronger through teamwork and determination. Though these remedies are often underreported, on HUDE Hour, we advocate sustainable solutions. We bring you the latest and most impactful news on how lives are being changed. We engage with young change makers and experts who provide valuable insights into relief efforts and the challenges faced by local communities through a global perspective. Join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. on HUDE Network's YouTube channel as we embark on this journey of positive change.
Hey everyone, let's face it, our world today experiences numerous challenges. And guess what? Our community isn't off the hook either. Most of the world issues are either not talked about enough or never talked about at all. But here on Timeline, we've got you covered. We dive deep into issues that affect us every day, leaving behind footprints of wisdom, knowledge, and solutions. Think of it like a roadmap that keeps you on the track for success. So buckle up, because in this new season of Timeline, we're taking another trip through the past, the present, and navigate into a more promising future. Again, we're talking solutions, people, and let's make one thing clear. This is not your average blah 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 convo. This is real talk with a side of inspiration and a sprinkle of wow. I never thought about it like that. I'm your host on this impactful ride. Together, we'll tackle the tough stuff, laugh a little, and find ourselves on the path to positive change. So what are you waiting for? Season 2 of Timeline will be loaded. Let's get started. Hop in and let's drive straight into the heart of issues shaping our world. Let's go. Oh, one more thing. Hit that subscribe button and let's take this ride together.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is still HUDE Hour right here on HUDE Network. We have been tackling the issue of Ebola. I've spoken to our expert guest on the matter, and now we are onto our Verified Voices segment, where we take a look at what the key stakeholders are saying as regards the topic at hand. Well, today, as always, Paul Oladipupo is here to take us through what's going on. Paul, how are you?
Very well, thank you, Amadine. How are you, John?
I'm
Thank
good.
I'm good. We're good.
Good
We're
to
good.
have you, Paul. Welcome.
Thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, you're welcome. as always. You're welcome to Verified Voices. It's going to be a lovely segment today. We're talking about Ebola virus, another zoonotic disease that we have in our environment right there. But let's quickly look at what key stakeholders are saying in this particular sector. First off, we have a tweet from Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, the Director General of WHO, is saying that the government of Uganda has announced an outbreak of Sudan Ebola virus. Tragically, a 32-year-old nurse has died. A full-scale response is being initiated by the government and partners. WHO is supporting the government through our country office and our emergency program. We have made an initial allocation of $1 million for the contingency fund for emergency. This is a very, very interesting one for WHO and also a very swift response from WHO. Not only did they just allocate that particular $1 million, they also had donated $2 million later on. And we've seen donations from the EU, also seen from the Swedish government, who through UNICEF gave Uganda $2 million as well. And it's a very interesting one to see that people are coming together to help Uganda in this, to get out of this particular crisis where they find themselves. Talking about the nurse that died as well, over the span, we've seen about 12 cases confirmed and also 4 deaths, which is really sad. And it just shows us how they were able. It just shows how much is being put in trying to contain the virus. However, they have already been able to track few people down. I think about 146 people have been tracked down, and they are trying to test them for the virus as well. And I think another issue again that we should also raise is talking about the burial of those that die, because I read in the news that some of those burials were not supervised, and some of them were not done well, leading to people being exposed to the virus again, because the virus is even more potent in the dead body than is more potent in those that are dead than those that are even alive.
All right. For me, particularly, is we're seeing the banding together of support and all of that. But I'd like to take it back a little bit to the nurse who died and how it's a call to the danger that healthcare workers put themselves in. In Nigeria here, remember Dr. Adedevo, Dr. Stella, pardon me, who has become famous for her role in how the country was able to tackle that issue by accurately diagnosing the first case and then basically sacrificing her life to do so. And what we're seeing there with the nurse is what we see a lot. And I just feel it's a call to remind people that the healthcare workers who are helping us out there, they are putting their lives on the risk. They are doing this to help us and help society as a whole. So we should also do our best to adhere by what they say. You heard our doctors speak about preventive measures and all of that. When they give this information, it is expected that we should do our part to simply, adhere so that the risk that they have to go through is minimized. If the average person is following these tips and these measures, we are less likely to have an overall issue where the majority of population are affected, and thereby also affecting the healthcare workers who then have to tackle these issues. So overall, I like that we're getting more support, but I just want to point that out also.
Exactly. That's actually a very great one. And Nigeria was able to control the virus in under 93 days, which is a very shocking record right there. Let's move on to the next tweet quickly. This is from Africa's CDC. As continent, we learned lessons of the devastating impact of the Ebola crisis in West Africa and the COVID-19 pandemic, both which highlighted the fundamental fact that we cannot always rely on the world to come to our aid. Africa CDC is 7. This was at the conference, and this was one of the things that was said there. This is just pointing to us that it's not every time that we have to rely on on aid to attend to issues like this. We should also try to also gather, have funds for emergencies like this. Also, we can see already in some places, for example, now in Nigeria, there's more surveillance to issues like this, to issues of both coronavirus and also Ebola virus, talking of surveillance, trying to monitor it. And also, we can see in DR Congo, there are researches, also in Ghana, also there are researches that are ongoing to be able to cope things like this. And that is what we want to see more from the leaders here in Africa, because it's very very important that we are able to fight all of these things, even without the aid of, even without foreign aid.
I'm pained, Paul.
Yeah.
I don't know why I want to go back to the first tweet concerning the 32-year-old
No,
nurse that
yeah.
died. I don't know. I'm really, really pained.
Yeah,
In
I
as
actually
much
understand
as-
your emotions because health workers are always at the front of it, and usually they face it without even knowing what it is most of the
Yeah,
times, and
of
that's what we saw
course.
in the case of Dr. Stella and also in the 32-year-old nurse that died recently.
Yeah, you're very correct, Paul. Apart from being like the fact that it's a woman that died, I don't. I want us to get to a point where we don't need anybody to die anymore. Like if you're going to die, that means you're done. Like you're dying out of you're not affected in any way.
Yes.
Maybe you're already done with what you have to do on earth. I don't know if you understand what I
Yeah,
mean.
I do get you.
So the aspect of people dying out of outbreak of diseases and virus is something very, very alarming. And coming to the second tweet, that as a continent, we need to understand that we don't have to rely on international aid or international organizations to come to Africa to help or to think for us to generate vaccines or pills or all that to help us heal. You know, as Center for Disease Control, that's the Africa CDC, is saying is making a very huge point, and I think it's high time African leaders understood that this is a clarion call that everybody needs to come together to put heads together to make sure that the healthcare system, because most times these viruses are coming from Africa, or even though they don't come from Africa, it will definitely come into Africa. And when it comes in, what are those plans that we need to, set aside or to put ahead of us to make sure that yes, Africans are not affected, and even though they are affected or we are affected, there are solutions, there are remedies on ground to bring us out of this particular issue.
Exactly.
That's my take.
It's always best that we prepare for things that we don't expect, and so that they don't catch us unaware. And that is why we have things like emergency funds here and there to ensure that all of these things are being looked into. I'll take the last tweet quickly now. This is from a Twitter user, an ex-user, is with the name Fire Lord. This is a very interesting name. It says, zoonotic diseases like Ebola and COVID-19 thrive when animal habitats shrink. The more we invade wild spaces, the closer we get to the next outbreak. If we don't save forests now, it's only a matter of time between us and great danger. I would want to quickly bring up a fact quickly, where from the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, where they say that yearly in Africa, about 4 million hectares of land or forest is being brought down due to things like bush burning, deforestation, logging, and most especially agricultural production. All of these things, and again, there are also just a few forests that's under law that are protected by law for long-term management, and it's really sad to see things like this. Already, we are seeing. I saw the map of Ivory Coast, and where already they have, as at 1990s, they had very much green areas here and there, and now it's more looking like a desert now as of the 2000s. It's really sad to see things like this happening. We really need laws to be put in place to protect our forests, because it's very important. And one thing about zoonotic diseases is that although the animals might leave those places, they still remain there. They don't move with the animals, because the animals must have laid their footprint here and there. And so with all of their footprints and things like that, their body fluids here and there in such environments, we expect to see all of these zoonotic parasites living in these places. And when we come as human beings and then we come into contact with these things, we get infected, and now we have another outbreak. And that is what Fire Lord right there is explaining, that it's important that we try our best, because obviously there's no way you won't say that the farmer shouldn't go to the farm, but we should try our best to put laws in place here and there to ensure that we are able to contain all of these things. I mean, 4 million hectares of land is a very wide space, and which is very, very sad to see.
Indeed, and again, this just calls to us paying more attention to wildlife and preservation, conservation, because we see a lot of hunting going about, particularly in developing nations. So it makes you question different implications that could come from this. Some of these diseases are come from animals. Some other times, they have the impact that they have, which is in terms of when you are expanding, perhaps you are globalization or industrialization, but some random species is suffering for that, and sometimes these things can have ripple effects. So I think it's an interesting one to consider, and it's something that we should just keep in mind and know that, well, we as human beings, the way we live our lives has effect on our environment, and that environment can in turn affect us.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I just want to chip in very quickly.
Yeah.
I'll come in the angle of eating. Our feeding culture is very, very important and it's very paramount. Whatever the kind of meat you eat, you take in is you don't just eat anyhow. People go into the bush to explore, and you end up creating more problems for your health system. And the most painful part of it is when you get contacted and you come out, like maybe you finish eating that particular meat, and another person can actually get contacted, and that's how it keeps going on and on. It's not really, really a good one.
That's really the story of how outbreak happens. I think one thing I also want to draw our attention to is that of dogs as well. It's because it's important that we try to ensure that, because also dogs also carry some of these parasites that we're talking about that could cause all of these diseases that we now classify as zoonotic disease. So if you're around a dog that you're not sure, try to be careful with such dogs, especially dogs that are not properly vaccinated and do not take their medicines as when due. I think that's all I'll be able to take today on Verified Voices. My name remains Paul Oladipo. Thank you very much for joining.
Paul?
Thank
you,
Paul.
Paul. It's a great one. Thanks for bringing us some more information there as regard what the stakeholders are saying. But that's how we round off the program for today. Don't forget to join us every Wednesday by 8 a.m. HUDE Hour comes to you on our YouTube channel. See you next time, where we come back and break down issues in the humanitarian and development space. I am Amadine Obewe. Bye for now.
And I am John Eze. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now.